somewhere on a Los Angeles highway, in a car full of people, a 5-day-old baby, and a phone on speaker. A father called to defend his daughter, and the man he called about asked the baby to look at the camera. That's not the wildest part. The wildest part is what came out of that man's mouth about 90 seconds after the disrespect peaked. 2 words. A self-diagnosis, delivered with a laugh. And the second he said it, the whole stream stopped being about a relationship and started being about something way darker. Stay in this car with me. Quick thing before we pull off. If you're the type who rewinds streams frame by frame like we do, you're already family. Like this, subscribe, tap the bell, because the way this story is moving, part 2 might drop before you finish this one. Alright, seatbelt. The Who Blueface, Jonathan Jamal Porter, and his girlfriend Nevaeh Akira, weeks removed from welcoming their son, Jonathan Jamal Porter Jr. The What? A car live stream that detonated into a verbal pileup, Blueface belittling Nevaeh over a streaming question, slapping a $5 price tag on her, and then going word for word with her father on speakerphone in front of her son superior. The when. The clip flooded timelines in late August 2026. The where. A moving car, live on stream, chat watching in real time. The which. The same streaming circuit that had already caught Nevaeh going into labor on camera, when Blueface streamed the drive to the hospital mid-contractions. That's the skeleton. Now watch what the flesh looks like, because the order of events matters more than any single insult. Before we open the vault, understand the ground this car was driving on. This wasn't a couple's first public rough patch. This was a relationship that had been conducted almost entirely in public since the moment it started. Every milestone, every argument, every tender moment routed through a lens. The labor stream 5 days earlier wasn't an aberration. According to reporting at the time, it was treated as content gold, the kind of chaotic yet heartwarming moment the algorithm rewards. So when Nevaeh got back in a car with a camera running 5 days after delivery, she wasn't returning to normal life. She was returning to the set. Keep that framing in your pocket. It matters later. And one more structural note before the quotes start landing. Everything you're about to hear happened in a confined space, with no exit. A moving vehicle. No producer to cut to commercial. No publicist in the back seat. Just a man, a woman, her father on a phone, her son in the car, her newborn in the car, and a chat window full of strangers watching it happen in real time. That architecture, trapped, mobile, live, is not incidental to what unfolded. It's the stage design. Start with the question that lit the fuse. Nevaeh on stream. Somebody asked how much to book me for a stream. Blueface doesn't hesitate, doesn't blink. $5. She pushes, really, $5? And he doubles it down into the concrete. That's all you were. In a car. In front of her kid. In front of the chat. In front of a newborn. Okay. Pause on that exchange for a beat, because the speed of it is the tell. She asked a business question, a legitimate, forward-looking, entrepreneurial question from a woman who had just given the platform its most watched moment in weeks by going into labor on camera. And the answer came back instantly. No calculation. No, why do you ask? Just a number, delivered like a verdict. $5. That's not a negotiation. That's a demotion. And then, when she gave him the grace of a follow-up, really, $5? A chance to walk it back, to laugh it off, to say, nah, you know you're worth more than that. He didn't soften it. He engraved it. That's all you were. Past tense, as if whatever she was before had already been spent. Then the father calls. And listen to what Blueface chooses to say to the man, on speaker. How much do you think it should cost for her to go sit in another dude's face? He asked her dad to price her. Read that again. The dad, to his credit, keeps it level. What's up with your daughter, bro? And later delivers the line that's been echoing across every repost of this clip. It kills your brain cells, son. Wild part. That calm. That man was the calmest person in the car. Think about what it takes to be that calm. Your daughter is 5 days postpartum. She's in a car with a man who just told her she's worth $5. And he did it in front of her children, live, with an audience. And now that same man is on speakerphone asking you, her father, to participate in the appraisal, to name a price for your own child. The restraint it takes to respond with, what's up with your daughter, bro? A redirect, a de-escalation, a refusal to take the bait, is the restraint of a man who has either done this before or has been preparing for it. And the brain cells line. That's not an insult. That's a diagnosis of its own, delivered without a laugh, without a performance, from a man who watched the whole thing and reached a conclusion about what he was hearing. Reportedly, the clip of that specific exchange is what pushed the story past the usual gossip cycle ceiling and into mainstream virality. And then, after Nevaeh's dad hangs up, after the disrespect has fully aired out, Blueface pivots to the line that turned this from a messy stream into a headline. I'm diagnosing myself. I'm bipolar. He laughed when he said it. She didn't. Seconds later he's reaching for. I'm going through postpartum right now. It's real. Postpartum is a real thing, chat. Postpartum. Him. 5 days after she delivered his son. A delivery that itself played out live on Kick, with Blueface behind the wheel as Nevaeh told him her contractions had started. Sit with the postpartum claim for a second, because it's easy to laugh at. And the internet did laugh at it, but underneath the absurdity is something worth examining. Postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety are real, serious, clinically recognized conditions. They affect approximately 1 in 8 women who give birth, according to the CDC's published research on the subject. They are not punchlines. They are not rhetorical shields. And they are not, under any clinical framework that exists, conditions that a non-birthing partner can claim 5 days after delivery as an explanation for verbally demeaning the person who actually went through labor. Whether Blueface was genuinely struggling, genuinely confused, or genuinely performing is not something anyone outside that car can diagnose. But the decision to say it on stream, to a chat, with a laugh, in the immediate aftermath of being confronted by his girlfriend's father, that decision was his. And it's documented. One more, because it got buried under the noise. Mid-argument, Blueface asks her, and I'm paraphrasing the clean version, whether she's on something. She fires back. Never did it a day in my life. No evidence either way on that exchange, so we're logging it as an accusation made on stream. Nothing more. Reportedly, allegedly, on the record as a claim, not a fact. That's the bank. 5 deposits. No interpretation yet. But before we move to the timeline, notice what the bank doesn't contain. It doesn't contain an apology that landed. It doesn't contain a moment where anyone in that car, other than the father on the phone, tried to lower the temperature. And it doesn't contain a single second where Blueface addressed Nevaeh as a person rather than as a problem. Every quote in that bank is either a weapon or a shield. Nothing in there is a bridge. Hold that observation. It's about to matter. Now we connect. Blueface comes home from behind bars, and the triangle snaps back into shape immediately. Crazy and Rock on one side, Jaden Alexis on the other, and the two of them at each other's throats within days of his release, with Jaden accusing Crazy of threatening her. Jaden then went off publicly, receipts in hand, after Crazy reportedly accused her of begging Blueface for money once he got out. That's the weather system Nevaeh walked into. And weather system is the right metaphor, because it wasn't a single storm. It was a climate. According to the reporting, the Jaden, Crazy friction wasn't new. It predated Blueface's release. It intensified during his incarceration, and it erupted into full public view the moment he was back. Tour videos surfaced of Blueface and Crazy hanging out, and Jaden responded publicly on social media, per coverage from the Shade Room. The accusations flew in both directions, threats alleged on one side, financial motives alleged on the other. And through all of it, Blueface said very little publicly. He let the women fight. He let the headlines accumulate. And then, when the cycle started to cool, when the Crazy and Jaden content began to exhaust itself, the car stream happened. Timing is not proof, but timing is never nothing. Then the labor stream. Then the birth. Then, 5 days later, the car stream. Nevaeh asks about booking another stream. He prices her at $5. Her father, watching live, calls in. Blueface doesn't de-escalate. He auditions the disrespect for the dad directly. Then comes the bipolar line. Then the postpartum line. Then the apology, the kiss request. Do I love you? Actually, hold on. Back up. Because the sequence inside that last 90 seconds is the part everybody clipped, but nobody laid flat. Explode, self-diagnose, joke, apologize affection. That's not a mood swing. That's a cycle. And whether it's a clinical cycle or a content cycle, that's the question this whole video is circling. And let's be precise about that cycle, because the internet flattened it into Blueface is crazy and moved on. The sequence is more specific than that. First, maximum damage. The $5 line. The phone call with the father. The disrespect at full volume. Then the pivot. Not a pause. Not a silence. A pivot to a medical-sounding self-diagnosis that functions as a rhetorical force field. You can't criticize a man for being cruel if he's just told you he's sick. Except he said it with a laugh. And then the softening. The I'm going through postpartum line. Absurd on its face, but structurally identical to the bipolar move. Another label. Another shield. And then, finally, the reach for affection. I overreacted. I'm sorry. Tell your dad I'm sorry too. Give me a kiss. I love you. For beats. Damage, diagnosis, deflection, devotion. In 90 seconds. If you've ever watched someone cycle through those exact steps in that exact order, not once, but as a pattern, you already know what Lens 3 is going to show you. Also note what else lived in that car. Superior, Nevaeh's son, awake and watching. Blueface reportedly told the boy to look at the camera while the argument ran. And note who's absent from the defense. Nobody. Nevaeh said it herself on stream. When she was in a shelter with her son, her dad wasn't there. Her mom wasn't there. Blueface weaponized that exact history against the father's phone call. He wasn't watching when you was in the shelter with your son. He cataloged her lowest chapter and spent it as ammo. That's not rage. That's filing. And that filing instinct, the ability to reach into a partner's history and extract the exact detail that will hurt the most, at the exact moment it will do the most damage, in front of the exact audience that will amplify it. That's not impulsivity. Impulsivity is sloppy. This was surgical. He didn't just insult her. He invalidated her father's right to call. He reframed the man's concern as hypocrisy. He used her own trauma, a shelter stay, a moment of vulnerability she had shared with him, presumably in confidence, as a counterpunch against the one person who called to check on her. Whatever you want to call that, it's not a mental health episode. It's a strategy. And it worked. The father went quiet, the chat went wild, and the clip went everywhere. Lens 1, behavioral. Watch the apology architecture. Every time Blueface cornered himself in that stream, he ran the same 3-step exit. Escalate past the point of no return, slap a medical-sounding label on it, then reach for softness before the room can process. I'm diagnosing myself. I'm bipolar. Then, minutes later, I overreacted. I'm sorry. Tell your dad I'm sorry too. Then, give me a kiss. I love you. 3 exits. Same stream. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not diagnosing anybody, but I am a pattern reader, and that pattern is rhythm, not remorse. And here's the thing about rhythm, it implies practice. You don't land a 3-step exit that cleanly on the first try. That sequence, escalate, label, soften, is the interpersonal equivalent of a chorus. It's the part of the song that comes back around because it's the part that works. And in this case, works means it ends the conflict without resolving it. The apology doesn't address the $5 line. It doesn't acknowledge the father. It doesn't repair anything. It just closes the loop so the next cycle can begin. Relationship researchers who study conflict patterns, and I'm drawing on general behavioral literature here, not diagnosing anyone, have a term for this kind of loop. A demand-withdraw cycle with a false resolution exit. One partner demands, the other withdraws, and the conflict ends not with understanding but with exhaustion. Now add a live audience to that dynamic. Add a chat that's reacting in real time. Add clipping pages that will slice the worst 30 seconds and strip the context. The cycle doesn't just repeat, it monetizes. Lens 2, legal adjacent. Remember, this is a man freshly out of custody, reportedly still navigating the terms that come with release, getting on a live stream and verbally sparring with the father of your girlfriend. A man who now has you on speakerphone audio saying what you said is not just messy, it's documented. Every second of that car ride is timestamped, archived, and clipped. If any custody conversation ever materializes around Jonathan Jr., this stream isn't a memory. It's an exhibit. And it's not just one exhibit. It's a pattern of exhibits. The labor stream. The car stream. Every public appearance, every live stream, every clip moment is a data point in a file that doesn't need a lawyer to assemble. The internet assembles it for free, in real time, with timestamps and commentary. Family court proceedings in California. And I'm speaking generally here, not about any specific case. Consider the totality of a parent's public behavior when evaluating the best interests of a child. Public live streams, social media posts, and recorded interactions can all become part of that evaluation. Blueface is, presumably, aware of this. He has legal counsel. He has management. And yet the camera kept rolling. Either the risk calculation says the content is worth more than the exposure, or the impulse control isn't there to stop it. Both of those possibilities are worth sitting with. Neither of them is flattering. Lens 3 audio. Listen to the chat's roll. He kept turning to it. Postpartum is a real thing, chat. The chat wasn't watching the show. The chat was in the script. He performed the apology to the audience, not to Nevaeh. She was sitting next to him. The chat was the one he cared about convincing. I had to run that section back 3 times to be sure, and yeah, ever sorry, was angled at the camera. That detail, the physical orientation of the apology, is the kind of thing that gets lost when you read a transcript. On paper, I'm sorry is I'm sorry. But on video, where the eyes go matters, where the body turns matters. And according to every clip of that stream that's been archived and shared, Blueface's apologies were delivered toward the lens, toward the chat, toward the audience that would clip it, share it, and debate it. Nevaeh was right there, close enough to touch. And the apology went past her, into the camera, to the people watching. That's not an apology. That's a broadcast. And the difference between those two things is the difference between a relationship and a production. Look how differently the story got carried. The labor stream got soft-focus celebrity coverage, a quirky, chaotic, almost sweet rapper rushes to hospital midstream angle, framed as content gold. Meanwhile, the Jaden-Cryzian war got framed as a 2 women fighting over a man spectacle, with Jaden reacting to tour videos of Blueface and Cryzian hanging out. And the dad confrontation that got flattened into Blueface is going viral after Nevaeh's father reportedly called and confronted him over the way he had been speaking to his daughter. 30 seconds of the wildest audio, stripped of the $5 context, stripped of Superior in the back seat. And that flattening is not neutral. When you strip the $5 line from the dad confrontation, you change the story from a man appraised his girlfriend like a commodity and then sparred with her father about it, to a concerned dad called in during a heated moment. One version is a systemic story about how women are valued in this ecosystem. The other is a family drama. The clipping pages chose the family drama because family drama is safer, shorter, and more shareable. The systemic story requires context. Context doesn't clip well. And that's not an accident. It's an editorial decision made by every account that chose the 30-second version over the full sequence. The result is that most people who saw this story saw a father calling in, heard the brain cells line, laughed, and scrolled. They never heard $5. They never heard, that's all you were. They never heard the shelter callback. The architecture of the outrage was deliberately shallow, because shallow outrage travels further. Now the loudest counter-narrative, and let me steelman it honestly. Y'all are falling for it. It's streamer theater. They're both performing. The outrage is the product, and you're the product's fuel. Fair. Genuinely. There's a version of this where everyone's in on the bit. Here's where it collapses. The 5-day-old wasn't performing. Superior wasn't performing. The father on that phone wasn't performing. You don't fake the restraint and it kills your brain cells, son. And the shelter callback? You don't script a man throwing your homelessness in your face as a rebuttal to your dad. Theater doesn't need ammunition that's specific. Somebody in that car was doing content. It just wasn't everybody in that car. And that right there is the gear shift. So let's say the quiet part out loud. The mainstream read is simple. Toxic rapper, long-suffering girlfriend, concerned dad, clip goes viral. Everybody moves on by Tuesday. But here's the read nobody's printing. This wasn't a relationship breaking down on camera. This was a man stress testing his product on camera. And the product is the breakdown itself. Think about the economics. Blueface came home to a crowded field. Cryzian and Jaden were already generating headlines, without him lifting a finger. His name was trending, but the trend had no engine. So what's the fastest way to reclaim the algorithm? Not music. Music takes months. A live stream humiliation cycle takes 90 seconds and clips itself. The $5 line was engineered to be a soundbite, short, cruel, quotable, caption-ready. The bipolar line was engineered as plausible deniability. Say something outrageous, then hand the audience a medical-sounding escape hatch, so the discourse splits into he's sick versus he's evil. And both sides clip it, and both sides feed it. And Nevaeh's question, how much to book me for a stream? Look at what it actually was. A woman 5 days postpartum already thinking about her own stream value, her own bookings, her own lane. That's not a dumb question. That's an independence question. And his answer wasn't an insult. It was a valuation. He priced her at $5 because a woman with her own rate card is a woman who can leave. And the one thing this entire content empire cannot survive is the cast walking off set. The clipping pages need the chaos. The chaos needs the couple. The couple needs Nevaeh to believe she's worth $5. Watch how clean the cruelty is when you see it that way. And here's where the pattern recognition kicks in. Because this isn't the first time this exact dynamic has played out in this exact orbit. Cryptix Rock's entire public arc followed the same geometry. A woman with independent star power gets pulled into Blueface's content ecosystem. Her identity gets absorbed into the couple brand. Her conflicts become the product. And the moment she tries to establish independent value, her own music, her own platform, her own narrative, the ecosystem pushes back. Jaden Alexis, same architecture. Her public identity is inextricable from Blueface, and every attempt she's made to build a lane outside of that orbit has been met with public friction, per the reporting already cited. Nevaeh is the newest cast member in a show that has been running for years, and the $5 line isn't just an insult, it's a casting note. It tells her where she sits in the hierarchy. It tells the audience how to value her. And it tells the clipping pages what the ceiling is for her independent coverage. She is worth $5 until she proves otherwise. And the ecosystem is designed to make proving otherwise as difficult as possible. The jabs write themselves, so let's land them. To the he's just bipolar, have compassion camp. Compassion is for people who seek help, not people who seek cameras. To the Nevaeh knew what she signed up for crowd. She signed up for a relationship, reportedly. Nobody signs up to be appraised like a vending machine in front of their father. To the it's all fake theorists, fake arguments don't leave real kids with real memories of that car ride. To the outlets covering the labor stream like a sitcom. You set the table for this. You taught the algorithm that this family's worst moments are premium inventory. And to Blueface himself, I'm diagnosing myself. Might be the most honest bar he's dropped in years, because for once the man admitted he's his own doctor, his own patient, and his own pharmacy of excuses. Almost sympathetic, honestly. Almost. Because the darker read underneath all of it. If the chaos is the business model, then peace is literally bad for revenue. And a man who can't afford peace will manufacture war. In a car, in front of a newborn, on speaker with her father. Every single time the numbers dip. Chew on that. And one more layer before we move forward, because it connects the take to the timeline. The Cryptix and Jaden content cycle was cooling. The labor stream bump was fading. The algorithm was hungry. And into that hunger, Blueface introduced a new storyline. Not with Cryptix, not with Jaden, but with the newest, most vulnerable, least established member of the cast. A woman 5 days postpartum. A woman with a newborn and a young son. A woman who had already told the world on stream that she'd been in a shelter with no family support. He didn't pick the strongest opponent. He picked the most exposed one. And if that's not a content strategy, it's a coincidence that happens to look exactly like one. So where does this go from here? 3 roads, no labels. Watch how the first one plays out, because it's the most likely. Nevaeh stays. The clip cycle cools. And within weeks, there's a reconciliation stream. Soft lighting, matching energy, maybe a couple's Q&A where the bipolar moment gets reframed as a breakthrough. The $5 line becomes a meme they both laugh about. Merch potential, honestly. Don't be shocked when $5 ends up on a t-shirt before the year turns. The failure in this path lands on the clipping ecosystem. They'll have overplayed the outrage so hard that the audience goes numb. and numb audiences don't convert. But the brand survives. It always survives the first cycle. And the reason it always survives the first cycle is that the first cycle is the audition. It's the test run. Can this couple generate enough heat to sustain a recurring storyline? Can this woman absorb enough public disrespect to keep the content engine fed? Can the audience be trained to tune in for the next episode? If the answer to all three is yes, and based on the view counts on every clip from that car stream, the answer is emphatically yes, then the first cycle isn't the scandal. It's the pilot. The scandal is what happens when the pilot gets picked up for a full season. The second road flips the whole table. The father doesn't fold. That phone call wasn't a performance. It was a warning shot from a man who watched his daughter get appraised in real time. Expect the next window to bring either a family intervention, a separation announcement framed as co-parenting, or, and this is the one nobody's pricing in, Nevaeh launching her own independent stream with her own name on the door. She already asked the question out loud on his stream. What's my booking rate? Once a woman says that into a microphone, the market answers it whether he likes it or not. The failure prediction here is his. The moment she monetizes independently, the $5 valuation becomes the most expensive sentence he's ever said on camera, because every platform she appears on will open with that clip, and he'll be the unpaid promo for her comeback. And that last point deserves a full beat, because it's the road with the most precedent. Every woman who has exited Blueface orbit has carried a built-in audience with her. Cryptix Rock's post-Blueface coverage routinely outperforms her couple-era content per observable engagement patterns across platforms. Jaden Alexis's independent social presence commands its own following per the same. The ecosystem creates the star. The star absorbs the damage. And then, if she leaves, the damage becomes the origin story, and the origin story becomes the brand. Nevaeh doesn't need Blueface permission to build her own platform. She needs a reason. And he just gave her the best one imaginable on camera, in front of her father for free. The third road is the 5-year residue, and it's the heaviest. By then, Jonathan Jr. is in kindergarten. Superior is a teenager, and both of them can type. Everything their parents did in that car, the pricing, the dad call, the diagnosis of punchline, is permanently indexed, one search away, forever. The cultural residue of this era of hip-hop streaming won't be the music. It'll be a generation of kids who can pull up 4K footage of how their parents treated each other before they could walk. Once that hits, expect the whole shockstream economy to face its reckoning. Not from platforms, not from sponsors, but from the children of the content, grown and articulate, and holding receipts nobody can delete. The failure there belongs to everyone who built the machine. The favored side, the only favored side, is whoever got out of the car with their name still meaning something. Sit with that last one for a second, because it's not hypothetical. The children of reality TV's first wave are already adults, and some of them have already spoken publicly about what it was like to grow up with their family's worst moments permanently archived. The kids of the streaming era will have it worse. Higher resolution, more platforms, more commentary, more memes. Superior is old enough right now to understand that something bad happened in that car. He may not have the vocabulary for it yet, but he has the memory. And that memory will eventually meet the footage. When it does, the question won't be, was it content? The question will be, was it worth it? And nobody in that car, not Blueface, not Nevaeh, not the chat, not the clipping pages, not the platforms, will have a good answer. You saw what I saw. You heard the order it happened in. If this is the version of the story your timeline didn't give you, like it, subscribe, kill the bell so the next drop finds you first, and get in the comments. 5 days postpartum, a $5 price tag, and a father on speaker. Which one of those three is the real headline? Fight out down there. I'll be reading. This is Fame Cryptix. The next one's already loading.